I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to end up writing something like this, but here we are. I'm 34, married to my husband, 36, for 8 years. We have 2 kids, 7 and 4, and I work remotely as a marketing coordinator. Life isn't glamorous, but it's stable. Or it was. For the last 6 months, my husband had been on this weird campaign to convince me we needed a housekeeper. At first, I laughed it off. Like what? I work from home, the house isn't that big, and sure it gets messy sometimes, but nothing I couldn't handle. But he wouldn't let it go. Every few days he'd bring it up again. You're working so hard. You never get a break. The kids are messy. Let's just make life easier. I kept pushing back. Money was tight, and honestly, it felt weird having a stranger in my space. But he kept insisting. He said he knew someone through a colleague. Highly recommended, he said. Discreet. Professional. Super friendly. He even set up a time for her to meet me, like he was doing me a favor. So I gave in. Her name was Marina, 28, maybe? She was nice. Pretty. Very friendly. Long dark hair, kind of overly chatty, but I didn't get any bad vibes right away. She seemed competent enough. What bothered me a little, though, was how comfortable she was with my husband. She laughed at his dumb jokes, and they kept exchanging these little glances. But I told myself I was being paranoid. I mean, he wanted to help me, right? Anyway, I said okay. We agreed she'd come twice a week, just for light cleaning and laundry. My husband seemed thrilled. Like, weirdly thrilled. I chalked it up to him just being happy. I accepted the help. The first week was fine. Marina did her job, was always polite to me, never overstepped. But I noticed she talked to my husband a lot. Sometimes I'd come downstairs and find them chatting in the kitchen, like they were old friends. I'd walk in and they'd quiet down, or she'd suddenly remember she needed to mop something. I told myself again, you're overthinking. She's just friendly. He's being polite. But then little things started piling up. My husband started dressing better around the house. Not like a full suit or anything, but clean jeans, cologne, fixing his hair. This man used to walk around in old basketball shorts and socks with holes. Now, suddenly, he's looking like he's headed to brunch with someone. I asked him once, jokingly, "Who are you trying to impress?" And he laughed it off with, "I just feel better when I look better." Okay, sure. Then there was the time Marina showed up 30 minutes early. I was still in a meeting, so I waved her in and kept working. A few minutes later, I heard her laugh. Not normal laugh, like a giggle. I peeked out and saw her handing my husband a cup of coffee. He had made coffee. He never makes coffee for me. Again, I shook it off. Told myself I was being insecure. But the moment everything shifted for me was when I came down the stairs one day, and I heard Marina say, "I thought you said she wouldn't be home today." I stopped in my tracks. My heart started pounding. My husband immediately responded with something I didn't catch, then called out, "Hey babe," like nothing was weird. I didn't confront him right then. I didn't know what to say. I just felt cold all over. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it in my head. Why would she say that? Why would she think I was supposed to be gone? It was a Tuesday, my regular work-from-home day. I never leave the house on Tuesdays. Why would he tell her that? The next morning, I asked my best friend to meet me for coffee and told her everything. She gave me the look. "You know the one. That girl. You need to check this out, look." She asked if I ever thought of putting a camera in the house. At first, I said no way. It felt like spying. But then I remembered how nervous I felt when I heard Marina's voice. How my gut was screaming at me. And how my husband kept pushing her into our lives. So, I ordered a small hidden camera online. One of those that looks like a USB charger. I felt sick about it. I didn't want to be that wife. But I needed to know. I had to stop gaslighting myself. If it was nothing, great. If it was something, well. 2 days later, I told them I was going out for the day to take the kids to a playdate and run errands. I kissed my husband goodbye like nothing was wrong. But instead of leaving town, I parked around the block and waited. The camera was rolling. What I saw when I watched that footage changed everything. I waited in the car for about 2 hours before I drove back. I was shaking the whole time, even though I didn't even know what I was going to see. I kept telling myself it was probably nothing. Maybe she really was just cleaning. Maybe I was losing my mind. I almost didn't want to check the footage when I got back, but I knew I had to. The kids were still out with my sister, and Dan had gone to the gym by then, so I had the house to myself. I plugged in the camera and pulled up the video file on my laptop. I skipped ahead to the part when Marina arrived. At first, it was normal. She came in, set her bag down, started wiping the counters. My husband came into frame about 10 minutes later. He said something I couldn't quite hear, and then he touched her back. Like, casually. Too casually. She turned and smiled like she expected it. I felt my throat close. They stood in the kitchen talking for a bit. Then she leaned in and kissed his cheek. Not a friendly, high kiss. This was different. Too slow. Too familiar. My heart dropped. He didn't pull away. In fact, he leaned in and kissed her back. On the lips. I actually paused the video. I just sat there staring at the screen like if I didn't press play again, maybe it would all stop being real. I wanted so badly to believe I was wrong, that I was overreacting. But there it was. Proof. Right in front of me. When I finally pressed play again, they were full-on making out in my kitchen, where I make my kids' lunches, where we bake cookies as a family. That same damn counter. I couldn't even cry. I just went numb. It didn't get worse physically. They didn't go to the bedroom or anything, thank God, but the way they acted, it wasn't just physical. It was flirtatious, comfortable, intimate. This wasn't a one-time thing. After about 30 minutes of talking and touching and laughing like teenagers, Marina actually started cleaning for real. Like nothing had happened. My husband went upstairs, probably to shower or something. I turned off the video and sat on the floor of my living room for almost an hour, just staring at the carpet. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even text my friend. I was just frozen. Eventually, I pulled myself together enough to pick up the kids. The rest of the day, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled, made dinner, read bedtime stories. Dan acted like he always did. Like he wasn't a complete liar. Like he hadn't just broken our marriage in a matter of minutes. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat next to him on the couch while he watched some stupid sci-fi show. I didn't say anything. I didn't even look at him. My skin crawled just being near him. I didn't sleep. Again. The next day, I copied the video to my phone and made an appointment with a divorce attorney. I didn't even know if I was ready to file yet, but I needed to know my options. What custody might look like. Finals. 2 days after that, I planned my confrontation. I waited until a Saturday night. Kids were at my mom's for a sleepover, so it was just us. We'd just finished eating dinner when I grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. But instead of Netflix, I mirrored the camera footage from my phone. It started playing without a word. Dan looked up, confused. At first, I think he thought it was an old video or some kind of security footage. But once Marina walked into frame, his face changed. Completely. He froze. Then the kissing started. He shot up from the couch like he'd been electrocuted. Rachel, wait, this isn't what it looks like. I just stared at him. Not yelling. Not crying. Just dead silent. I'd already done my morning in private. It was a mistake, he said. It only happened once, twice, okay, a few times, but it didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. He really said that. I asked him, calmly, how long it had been going on. He said, 3 months. 3. And in that time, he had convinced me, gaslit me, into letting her into our home. Around our children. Into my space. I asked him if he loved her. He said no. But his face told me he wasn't sure. Or maybe he was sure, and didn't want to say it. I told him to leave. He begged me not to make a decision right then, said we should go to therapy. I told him the only therapy I needed was space from him. I didn't throw anything. Didn't scream. Didn't make a scene. Just looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You made your choices. Now live with them." He packed a bag and left that night. And just like that, my entire marriage fell apart in a living room that still smelled like the candles I lit for dinner. After Dan left that night, the silence in the house was almost deafening. I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, going over every little detail I had ignored. Every stupid smile they exchanged. Every time I told myself I was overthinking. Every time he gaslit me into thinking I was just stressed. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, the same kitchen where they kissed, trying to decide what the hell to do next. Around 9 a.m., Dan texted me. "I'm sorry. I know I messed up. Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Later that afternoon, Marina had the absolute nerve to show up for her scheduled cleaning shift. She had no idea I'd seen the video. I opened the door and just stood there looking at her. She smiled like everything was fine, said something like, "Morning, Rachel. Want me to start in the kitchen, or—" I cut her off. "Don't even take a step into this house." Her smile dropped. I could see the moment she realized. She tried to play innocent. Wait, what's going on? I didn't know her a thing, but I said it anyway. I saw the video. I know everything. She stood there with her mouth half open like she didn't know what to say. Then she muttered something like, it wasn't supposed to go that far. As if that made it better. I asked her, straight up. So, what was the plan? Sleep with my husband, break up my family, and clean my floors in the meantime? She actually had the audacity to say, I didn't mean to hurt you. I laughed. I literally laughed. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you were making out with my husband in my house. On my time. On my dime. You used me. You lied to me. She just stood there like a deer in headlights, then quietly turned around and left. That was the last time I saw her in person. Dan, on the other hand, wouldn't stop trying to contact me. Calls, texts, emails, even a handwritten letter that he left in the mailbox. He was suddenly in full damage control mode. He kept saying it was a huge mistake and that he wanted to fix it. He said he ended things with Marina the moment he left our house. Claimed he realized what he was losing, and that she meant nothing. But I didn't care anymore. I think that's what shocked me most. I wanted to care, but I didn't. The love was gone. Like a switch flipped. I gave myself a week to process. Then I met with the divorce attorney again and started the paperwork. I didn't tell Dan right away. I wanted to be sure. I spent time with my kids, leaned on my sister and a few close friends, journaled, cried, and just sat with it. And when I was finally ready, I told him. Over coffee at a public place. He looked crushed. Like, he thought his half-assed apologies were going to somehow fix 8 years of trust shattered in one moment. I told him calmly, I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it because I deserve better. Our kids deserve better. He nodded. To his credit, he didn't argue. I think he knew there was no point. That same week, I found out through a mutual friend that Marina had been bragging to someone about how Dan was going to leave me anyway and that they were probably going to move in together. That made me laugh, honestly, because Dan was staying in his friend's guest room and clearly regretting every decision he made. 3 days later, Dan texted me saying Marina had blocked him. Apparently, when he tried to reach out to her, she ghosted him completely.
No volví. No conversaste.
Just gone. She got what she wanted, attention, drama, maybe the ego boost of taking a married man, and then dropped him like nothing. I didn't even feel bad for him. Actions meet consequences. At this point, I had started therapy solo, not couples. I needed to rebuild myself, figure out how I got so far from my instincts, how I let myself believe lies just to keep the peace. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You didn't break your marriage.
He did.
You're just choosing not to live inside the wreckage anymore. That hit hard. I started noticing things I hadn't felt in years. Moments of peace, real laughter with my kids, even sleeping through the night again. Dan still tried to be around, calling to check in, trying to talk logistics, but I kept it brief, and only about the kids. No small talk.
No emotion.
And the truth is, the more distance I got from him, the more I realized how emotionally absent he had been for a long time. How often I'd been the one carrying the weight of the house, the kids, the relationship. Maybe I'd been afraid to admit it back then, but now, it was clear. He wasn't the prize. I just didn't know it until I left the game. Filing for divorce was easier than I expected and harder than I imagined, if that makes any sense. The logistics were surprisingly smooth. I had all my documents in order, the lawyer I found was amazing, and since I had that video footage, Dan didn't have much room to contest anything. We didn't have a prenup, but I wasn't trying to bleed him dry. I just wanted a clean break. Fair custody, fair split of the assets, and peace. That's all. Emotionally, though, it hit me in waves. Some days I felt strong, confident, free, even optimistic. Other days I'd randomly break down folding laundry because he used to make dumb jokes while I did it. Or I'd see our family photo on the fridge and remember how real everything felt before it all unraveled.
Grief is weird like that.
It sneaks up when you're doing the most normal things. Dan, on the other hand, did not handle things well. At all. At first, he tried to act mature, saying he respected my decision and wanted to focus on being a good co-parent. That lasted maybe 3 days. Then came the guilt trips. He'd text things like, I still love you. This doesn't have to end like this. You're throwing away everything we built. I ignored him unless it had to do with the kids. So then came the phase where he got angry. Out of nowhere. One night, he dropped the kids off and just exploded. Started yelling on my porch. You're really doing this? You're ruining our family. Like I was the one who slept with the housekeeper. I stayed calm and told him he needed to leave, or I'd call the police. That shut him up pretty fast. He started being petty after that. Showing up late for pickups. Forgetting to send the kids backpacks. Making passive-aggressive comments like, "Guess mommy's too busy being single now." All in front of the kids. Which I documented, by the way. Every single instance. My lawyer said to keep a record in case we ever had to go back to court. Meanwhile, Marina stayed completely out of the picture.
Poof, gone.
I don't know if she moved away or just vanished to avoid the fallout, but she never tried to reach out to me, and Dan never brought her up again. Last I heard, he told someone he dodged a bullet. Which is hilarious because he basically blew up his life for a woman who bailed the moment it got inconvenient. At this point, I was in full rebuild mode. I finally took some time for myself, real time. I got a haircut. Started walking every morning. Went back to yoga. Reconnected with a few friends I hadn't seen in years because I'd been so deep in mom and wife mode that I forgot who I was outside of those roles. My therapist helped a lot too. She didn't feed me empty affirmations. She just gave me tools. Helped me rebuild my confidence, process the betrayal, and stop blaming myself. That was big. For a while, I kept thinking, what did I miss? Was I not enough? Was I too busy? Too boring? Too tired? All that noise in my head. But slowly, I learned to shut it down. Because the truth is, I was enough. I was doing my best. I was loyal. I was present. I was carrying a whole household on my back while he was sneaking around like a coward. If that's not enough for someone, that's on them. The kids adjusted better than I feared. At first, they were confused. My 7-year-old asked if Daddy got fired from our family, which broke my heart. But I kept things honest, age-appropriate, of course, and consistent. Lots of reassurance, stability, and love. That helped. Dan eventually calmed down too. Probably because he realized I wasn't going to engage in drama. He started being more cooperative with co-parenting, mostly because he had no choice. Our custody schedule was finalized 50-50 with some flexibility, and we stuck to it. Funny enough, he started doing things he used to avoid like the plague. Attending school meetings, packing lunches, helping with homework. Part of me thinks he was trying to impress me, like maybe if he stepped up, I'd magically want him back. But I didn't. It was too late for that. I didn't trust him anymore. I didn't like him anymore. And honestly, I didn't even recognize him anymore. I ran into his mom at the grocery store one afternoon. She looked heartbroken. She hugged me and said she had no idea what was going on until everything blew up. She said, "I raised him better than this," which almost made me cry. She told me she was proud of how I handled everything and that she still considered me family. That meant a lot. By the time the divorce was finalized, I felt more peace than sadness. It was like coming up for air after holding my breath for years. I had survived the worst of it. Now it was time to build something new for me and for my kids. And I didn't need a man or a housekeeper to do it. It's been 8 months since the divorce was finalized. I didn't think I'd be saying this, but I'm happier now than I've been in years. Not in some fairy tale way where everything's magically perfect. Life is still messy. The kids still fight over who touched whose toy. Bills still need to be paid. But me, I feel lighter.
Calmer. Whole.
When I look back, it's wild how long I stayed in a version of my marriage that was already crumbling before Marina ever showed up. The cheating just ripped the mask off.
But now, I'm not just surviving.
I'm rebuilding. On my terms. I've set up a small home office space that actually feels like mine. I painted the walls a soft green, added a plant I haven't killed yet, and finally bought the good office chair I'd been eyeing for years. It sounds dumb, but for the first time, I feel like I'm actually allowed to make choices without checking how someone else might react or dismiss it. The kids are thriving too. My oldest told me a few weeks ago that mommy seems happier now, and I swear I almost cried in the middle of a Costco aisle. Kids pick up on everything. I didn't realize how much they'd been absorbing the quiet tension that lived in our house before all this happened. Dan still tries, in his own awkward way, to show that he's changed. He shows up on time, he stopped making snide comments, and he even started asking for tips on parenting books, which I honestly didn't expect. Good for him, I guess. But it's not for me. It's for the kids. I've made that clear. We're polite. Civil, not friends, not enemies. Just two people who used to be something, now co-managing two amazing little humans. And that's fine. That's more than a lot of people get after something like this. As for Marina, still MIA. Word got around that she ended up quitting her cleaning work entirely and left town not long after everything exploded. Last I heard, she ghosted another guy she was seeing. No surprise there. Turns out people who sneak around and hook up with married men don't always have strong moral compasses. Who knew? Dan told me once that he doesn't even remember why it started with her. That he was just bored, felt disconnected, and needed excitement. Honestly, I believe him, not because it excuses anything, but because that sounds exactly like the kind of selfish, short-sighted decision someone like him would make. And me? I've been focusing on reconnecting with myself. I started writing again. Nothing fancy, just journaling, some blog posts, little bits of creative stuff I used to do before diapers and dinner prep took over my life. I signed up for a local book club and even went on a few casual dates. Nothing serious yet. I'm still figuring out what I even want in a partner, but it feels good to know I can start over, that I'm not stuck. The other day, I was folding laundry while listening to a podcast, and they were talking about the idea of losing yourself in a relationship. That hit me hard. I had done that, slowly, over time. I had bent and shrunk and adjusted myself so much to keep Dan happy that I didn't notice how much of myself had faded. Now, I'm getting her back.
Piece by piece.
I also made a little ritual the day my divorce papers arrived in the mail. Nothing dramatic, just me, a glass of wine, a candle, and the papers on my kitchen table. I read every line, signed them, and whispered, "Thank you, but I'm done." Then I lit the candle and let it burn while I watched a show he always said was too dumb to watch. It felt good. Closure doesn't come all at once. It comes in small, quiet victories, like laughing without guilt, sleeping through the night, walking past the place he kissed her and not flinching, saying no without apologizing, choosing myself over peacekeeping. Do I still get sad sometimes?
Yeah.
Of course. You don't spend nearly a decade with someone and just erase the history. But the sadness doesn't control me anymore. It's just a passing wave. And the shore keeps getting closer. People keep telling me how strong I've been. I appreciate it, but here's the truth. I wasn't strong because I wanted to be. I was strong because I had no other choice. I had 2 kids who needed me, a life to hold together, and a heart that refused to stay broken. And now I choose peace. I choose joy. I choose boundaries. I choose better. If you're reading this and you've been in a similar spot, if you're doubting yourself, questioning your worth, wondering if you're too emotional or too much, let me be the voice that tells you, you are not crazy. You are not too much. You're seeing things clearly. And you deserve better. I didn't lose a husband. I lost dead weight. And honestly, I've never stood taller.